Have at it.
Okay.
Come on, it's our 10th one. You'd think we get the timing down.
Against my time?
Yeah. That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Okay. Let's assume that the ultimate purpose of education is to achieve excellence with equity. The question is how we can use the metrics and the measurement system as part of ESSA to enable and incentivize excellence with equity, and with regard to what particular outcomes. Oh, wait, okay. The formatting is way off. So let me. Notion is with NCLB, we use measurement to hold educators responsible for quality outcomes. With ESSA, we need to use measurement to support educators to meet that responsibility. And what I'm suggesting is that the formatting is way off. What I'm suggesting is that we, out of 100 points in the formula, at least 10 points should go not to measure exactly what the rating is on teacher and student surveys, but instead how effectively schools work to use those ratings for school improvement. And I want to suggest that the reason to take ratings that students give and the teachers give seriously is that they are very predictive of the things that we care about. With the tripod surveys, we find that 3 of the metrics tend to produce support value added. Some others tend to predict aspirations. Some others tend to predict student agency. Or at least a lot of them predict student agency. What I also want to suggest is that student agency is a great umbrella term to capture a lot of the things that we are interested in. We really want kids to take control of their lives. And social emotional learning, all these other stuff, all things all fit under this heading of student agency. And again, that is the umbrella factor. Second point I want to make has to do with, can we just turn the screen off? The formatting is totally off. Okay. I want to suggest that when we think about achievement gaps, most places measure achievement gaps comparing students in the same district with one another. That has all kinds of problems. If we think of comparing each subgroup in a district with the state average for white kids, for example, that gives you a very different picture of what the achievement gaps are. And I'm suggesting that is politically more tenable, it's more fair, and it will give us a measure that I feel much better about putting into a formula. So the 3 main points that I'm trying to make are that we need to reward not the ratings that teachers or students give to the quality of what happens in their schools, but instead reward how effectively they work to use those ratings to produce school achievement. We need to, for student outcomes other than test scores, we need to use student agency as the heading, and we've got conscientiousness and growth mindset, and a bunch of other things can all go under that heading. And finally, this notion of promoting teacher, using the student survey data and the teacher survey data in an accountability system, but rating the effort instead, that kind of thing to really work is going to need the strong support of district leaders and state leaders. My frustration over 15 years working with student surveys and teacher surveys in schools is that people don't use them as intensively as they could to produce change, and I want to incentivize that by putting at least 10% of the points in a formula to make that happen. And I'll stop with that, having been totally shaken by my PowerPoint not working.
Great job, and apologize if we messed up the PowerPoint. Okay, Charlene, you first.
Thanks. I really appreciated the use of a way to make qualitative measures, not just quantitative measures, a significant part of your criteria. I'd like to ask a little bit more about the idea of personal agency and engagement,
yes.
And potentially what you see as the benefits and risks of teacher and principal participation, particularly what role does that play in those 10, I mean, how do you define effort?
Okay, with the two issues. One is on the agency side, we picked that up out of student surveys. Questions like, in this class, we learn to pay attention to the quality of our work. In this class, we learn to believe we can get smarter. So we ask about the development of agency in a number of different ways in student surveys. Okay, on the participation of teachers and principals, I'm trying to spark professional learning community activity. They always intend to do it, but they never quite get around to it. And if they know they're going to get some points to make that happen, okay, obviously there's also the issue of who's going to make the judgment about how good their effort is. I suggest somebody's already supervising the principal. Why can't that just be part of that? If we don't trust that, we can craft some other ways to get at it.
You know, Ron, it was clear from reading the proposal that you, as one of the leaders in this work to develop measures of student engagement, teacher engagement, that there was some nervousness about attaching high stakes to that.
Yes.
So what, you know, I'd just be curious, as you have kind of an audience here with the states in D.C., what should people be thinking about this? Is there a risk that we're going to ruin this whole field of work if we attach high stakes to it?
There are a number of states and cities that already use these measures as 5 to 10% of, or actually 5 to 15% of their accountability formulas, and in those places it doesn't seem to have done any harm.
Yeah.
Okay. At the same time, in those places they aren't using them as much as I wish they would for reflection and professional learning activity. And so I'm not saying we should use them any less than 5 to 10% perhaps in a formula for overall accountability, but I'm suggesting that in addition to that, we should give people credit for the quality with which they evaluate and respond to what these measures show.
Okay, last question, Tony.
Mike, this is a theme that I've tried to hold till Ron, and I was going to. A number of our proposals, I mean a number of them, talk about a really different role for the LEA and school leadership and the LEA leadership. And I guess my question to you is, what is necessary in terms of training school leaders to do these things?
Yeah. No, I think we need to work on multiple rubrics that they can use. I think they need examples, videographic and other kinds of examples where they can watch to see what it looks like when you actually do this. I think they need to be required to come to trainings 2 or 3 times a year. I think the curriculum in those trainings should be based off what the most effective schools actually do, so they're learning from practice. I think there should be site visits where people visit to see how much of this are you actually doing. And if they aren't doing much, they should be asked to explain why they aren't doing much of it. So I think there can be a system where we build in knowledge from practice for practitioners to learn and create a set of arrangements by which they feel pretty obligated to pay attention.
Please join me in thanking Ron Ferguson. Thank you, Dr. Ferguson, making the trip. We're now going to vote. One last vote. Very exciting here. Thank you, Ellen, for teeing it up. Okay. Whew. We almost made it. Amazing.
I should have another song.
Okay. We could do more songs, yeah? Okay. Vote for Ron's proposal. Likes, love it, few hate it. Think it would be illegal? I keep wondering about the people who think it's illegal. I hope that's not Ann Heislip out there that's doing that one. Okay, a lot of like-its. Okay, let's do it again. Final one, Andy, we will start with you. Tell us, what do you think about this very heavy focus on student engagement as well as the other aspects of the plan?
Okay, you guys probably didn't get to see it, but point 4 of his key points to end is, in caps, do not, and then include scores from student, teacher, or parental feedback in state accountability grades. Instead, rate the quality of the effort educators exert to use such feedback in the improvement of teaching. That's a non-starter for me. Kids cannot take someone's effort to the bank. There are lots of great efforts that have been going on for a whole long time. There's a difference between motion and progress. I'm worried that this is all about the motion and not a whole lot about what students are actually taking away. I was not a fan.
Okay. But wait, Andy, you've kind of given up on showing us the card, and you know,
I don't like to say hate.
Hate it. Oh, there it is. That's what I'm looking for.
The soft, cuddly.
I know. What is that? He's a politician now. He's on a state board. That's the problem. Okay.
90% of the overall rating is on test scores. This is 10% in the corner of the thing.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So 90% is test scores. We're talking about 10% for this effort at using these ratings. Okay.
I'm squarely in the like it category. I think that the use of these kinds of student surveys is an important thing that we need to get much better at, both listening to students as well as acting on the feedback that we get.
Okay, good. Charlene?
I'm squarely in the love it category. There are four main reasons. One is that I appreciate the 10%. I think as a school leader, we already do these things in terms of principal and teacher evaluations, and this actually gives it a purpose. So I'm a huge fan of that. I think it introduces in the development of agency for teachers, for students, and for school leaders. And quite honestly, as a school leader, I'd love to be able to actually work with what is good for the students in my school and not always be told by other people, perhaps like in Arizona, the State Board of Education, about what we should do. I appreciated the idea of subgroups and really measuring subgroups against a meaningful achievement gap. I have a concern about the equity when we're just measuring like and like. So I'm a big fan. Love it, love it, love it.
Okay.
So Ron, I didn't think I would do this, but I did like it. I mean, and I would tell you that I started when I read it, the first time I read it, it was like I was exactly where Andy was. And the second time I read it, I thought, now wait a minute, this is starting to make sense to me. And then hearing your explanations, I really began to understand it. So I was a strong like it, and good job.
All right, one more round of applause. Very nice. Okay. Whew. Somehow we have done